Please be seated. Provost Coatsworth, Executive Vice President Madigan, faculty colleagues, alumni, doctoral candidates, and their families and friends. Good evening, and welcome to Convocation for Doctoral Candidates in the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I thank all of you for coming to celebrate the accomplishments of our Ph.D. candidates. We honor today a magnificent group that on commencement this coming Wednesday will join the ranks of our over 40,000 alumni and who will embark on professional and academic careers around the world in the great tradition of Columbia University. Equally important, we also honor today the families and friends of our candidates who have endured with them the grueling marathon of the doctoral degree. Thank you for being so supportive and, above all, for being so very patient. A special recognition is due today to the mothers in the audience who I'm sure have wondered more than once whether this day would finally arrive. I would ask all doctoral candidates to rise and applaud those friends and family members who have helped them to be here today. The student remarks to the graduating class will be offered by Ms. Liya Yu. Ms. Yu received her BA from Cambridge University and is a PhD student in the Department of Political Science. Her dissertation work brings together neuroscience and political science, focusing especially on dehumanization and identity politics, with the larger purpose of asking what cognitive conditions are necessary for us to coexist in today's hyper-diverse societies. A German citizen who was originally born in Hunan, China, Liya applies her research work to projects on immigrant mental health and on dissipating prejudice between people from the West and the East. Her literary work has won awards in Germany, and she continues to search for a new language through both politics and literature to help intercultural people to achieve their humanity in full. Ms. Yu.
Dean Alonso, Provost Coatsworth, Executive Vice President Madigan, faculty and hardworking staff. Dear families and friends, but most important, dear PhD class of 2017. I feel extremely honored today to deliver the student speech and would like to start by thanking my two advisors in the Political Science Department, David Johnston and Jack Snyder, as well as Lazana Harris from UCL. My other committee members, Robert Jervis and Helen Vedelli from Teachers College, as well as my parents, husband, 3-year-old son, and friends who are sitting in the audience today. I am here today to talk about what Columbia means to me as a place, as an enigmatic place of arrival and possibility, a place that marks my intellectual biography, a tangible place in which a multitude of my identities found a space to speak to each other. On one of my first lush summer evenings on campus 7 years ago, when I was sitting with a newly made friend on the steps of Low Library, we were watching how the lights of Butler Library, just behind you, opposite of us then, were beginning to pierce brightly into the soft, darkening sky, one small window after the other. My friend and I talked about how, for our hypermobile generation, places and locations are often piled onto each other without clear order, whereas recounting specific years provides more structure and clarity. For this generation, the memories of places that we travel to and from, and that we leave behind and immerse ourselves in, can quickly become a jumbled and bewildering collection of facts. Instead, specific years begin to structure us, almost as if they light up in front of our eyes like the row of bright windows of Butler Library into the darkness of the sky. Yet today, I want to make the case that our memory of Colombia is especially precious for a hypermobile generation like ours, because it is deeply etched into us as a memory and experience of place, above all. I came to Colombia from having studied political philosophy in the UK. I grew up in Germany, I was born in China, and thus arrived at Colombia with many question marks about my intellectual and cultural belonging. I wrote an interdisciplinary dissertation that employs the social neuroscience on prejudice, stereotyping, and dehumanization of others to build a neuropolitical theory of how we can live together cooperatively in hyperdiverse and divided societies. Colombia's campus, its winded corridors in the pre-war buildings, the seminar rooms, the libraries, and above all, its people became a physically tangible and contained place where I could draw connections between my conflicting identities. Academically, it became a place where, in my quest to create a new neuropolitical language and interdisciplinary theory for today's identity politics, I could literally cross disciplinary boundaries by walking over to the offices and seminar rooms of different departments and libraries on Morningside campus, within a matter of hours, within a whole long day. As I was contemplating during my graduate years what impact the brain has on politics and how politics reflects in the brain, I crisscrossed campus and connected the disparate intellectual fields in my mind, neuroscience and political philosophy, by walking across campus space. But just like any physical place that is able to grip our imagination, Colombia is a place that at once attracts our most daring visions and yet most vulnerable longings. If, like me, you have ever wondered and despaired about who you are, how are you supposed to think and how you are supposed to talk about yourself in light of the often conflicting cultural, racial, linguistic, and gender identities that you carry within you, then you will know that words such as belonging, home, and liberation are not just abstract concepts, but powerful and enticing sounds that compel you to explore them with an almost irrational yearning and resolution. When I arrived at Colombia, I wanted to understand the force of social identity, such as race, culture, and class, in determining political outcomes in a post-Cold War world order. I was motivated by my upbringing by Chinese parents in post-war unified Germany. I was puzzled how identity politics could lead to such disastrous outcomes, such as the Holocaust and the Cultural Revolution, but at the same time, how it could also lead to empowering triumphs, such as the civil rights movement and desegregation in the US, as well as the feminist movement and post-colonial liberation. Why did identity politics in the 20th century lead to such disastrous and yet triumphant outcomes? And how are we to learn from this for the identity politics of the 21st century in our increasingly hyperdiverse and divided societies? But of course, as is so often the case, the deepest and most hidden, but also most desperate and powerful drive behind my questions came from my own self. They came from my own experience as an intercultural minority woman who did not know whether she belonged to the East or West. From my experience of being rejected as too Western by fellow Chinese and as too foreign by fellow Western professors, colleagues, and friends. From my experience of not knowing which history was truly writing me and which history I should help writing. From yearning for a place that I could call my intellectual home, where I belonged without being put into set identity categories, where I could ask questions and try to answer them in a crispness and unfussiness that allowed me to focus completely on the question itself. A place where the beginning of each day was not marked by that stinging sense of shame that still too many of us who move from identity margins into the center allowed to wash over ourselves. I was looking for a place where it did not matter so much who you once were, but what you said, thought, and responded to in this very moment, in a seminar room, a research lab, and a lecture hall, took on importance and, above all, reality. Columbia as a campus and New York as a city became that place where the words belonging, home, and liberation could be uttered completely anew. However, I'm not trying to idolize Columbia here today either. My memory of Columbia is also marked by contestation of its place, by who is represented and allowed entry here. I'm thinking back of my time as a student senator when I engaged in heated debates about Columbia's global identity with ROTC's return to campus. About Columbia's responsibility to invest ethically, low-income students who confessed about their struggles with food stamps and finances, Black Lives Matter demonstrations, as well as the historic erection of a plaque that honors the Lenape people in 2016. Therefore, when I think back, my time here at Columbia is marked both by the liberation that the space offers to intercultural people like me, but also by the constant awareness that this space needs to be continuously contested, reclaimed, and transformed by a diverse assembly of voices. The meaning of a place also comes from seeing it through somebody else's eyes. I would not be the person I am today, and I'm sure you would agree, without the undergraduate students that I have taught. To consider the identity challenges of our time through the perspective of this youngest generation on campus has been deeply humbling for me, giving me true joy and purpose. Likewise, our parents and family who are sharing the special moments with us today carry within them the knowledge of other continents, histories, and political eras, which is why seeing us on stage today, in this place, in this city, at this moment, is deeply touching and moving to us, but perhaps even more so to them. Dear class of 2017, I leave you with this image of Butler Library's lights lighting up like the years that are to unfold before us after our graduation, but also with a visceral sense of place connected to Columbia, of that period in your life where the fractured identity parts within you found enlightenment and meaning, and a true sense of belonging in a single haven of time and place. Thank you very much.